When I first came here, I asked about apples and was told they wouldn't grow here. And then I found that there are apple trees developed in Israel, and I figured if they grow in Israel, they'll grow here. So I tried to get beautiful apples off them. The trees are taller than the house now. So then I tried a Granny Smith, a Jonathan and a Pink Lady. They're still only little, but got lots of nice fruit. So now I've put in a Cox's Orange Pippin and another English one. I've forgotten what the other one was. An Abbas. Abbas only flowers. It grows in Tasmania, only fruits for about 4 weeks of the year, but amazingly beautiful apples. So I thought, well, I'll try that as well. And then I started planting pear trees. Haven't had any pears yet, but and I've got some ordinary pears and some nashis too.
If there's something you want to grow and someone tells you you've got Buckley's chance, well, maybe they're right. Judy Buckley's garden is a living statement of defiance to those who say there are things you can't grow in the middle of Australia, especially if it's got fruit on it. If Judy sees a plant she wants to grow, she'll have a go no matter what, be it frost, heat or fruit flies. The result is a suburban oasis where you're never quite sure where in the world you are.
When I started to plant things and had some success, I was tired of people telling me I couldn't grow this and I couldn't grow that here. And I thought, we're in the middle of Australia, I'm going to try something from every corner. And that was one of the first tropical one I tried, because it will take frost down to about -7. So I thought that's worth a try. This one here needs to come out. It's had a bunch, which we've finished eating about 3 or 4 weeks ago. And once it's had a bunch, it dies, so there's no live leaves on it. This one hasn't fruited, and this one hasn't fruited, but there is a bunch coming up the top on this one. Now that started to form when the frosts were here and the bell flower was burnt off and died. They have to have close to 40 leaves before they fruit, and as they're growing up, they produce these little ones. And the ones with spear-shaped leaves, like that, are the ones that grow up to produce the bananas. If the leaves are more like a spoon shape, I remove them. But because these three are so close together, I'd like to actually move a couple. It's getting closer and closer to the laundry and the roof, so I want to start moving them back that way. That's an Andean walnut, which is meant to grow big, so I'm going to keep it in a pot, a bigger one than that. Avocado, which is flowering, and behind that the citrus is a Jamaican lime tree, or West Indian key lime sometimes it's called. Kaffir lime, and this one behind it here is an acerola cherry tree, and they use it a lot in medicine. It's very high in vitamin C. The cherry's about bigger than the normal cherry we used to here. Pretty similar colour, and they have a stone which is made up of several, probably 5 to 7 small pointy stones. So probably not a good thing to give a small child to eat because the stone is so pointy. The birds love them, so we have to bird net it this year. But it's produced since it was about a year old, I think, it's produced fruit. And it is absolutely delicious. It tastes different to a normal cherry, but it's still delicious. We'd probably let it get a bit tall. I wanted a nut tree, and when I read up at first, the only one that I thought might grow here was the almond. And I contacted a nursery in South Australia, and they said there was only one type that might grow here, although they thought I was pushing my luck a bit. And it's called an all-in-one. You don't need a second tree. And it was about 3 years old when it started to fruit. Perfectly good almonds, nothing wrong with them. The only thing is the parrots love them. They discovered them. So we're going to have to shorten the tree a little bit so we can net it. Did you see the pineapples? And we normally have fruit on them, but there's none at the moment, unless there's some coming up. I can't see any. But the fruit is absolutely delicious. I don't see why everyone can't grow pineapples in Alice Springs. You would never eat a shop-bought pineapple once you've had one you've grown yourself. They're just beautiful. These are apples, And they told me to plant the 2 trees in the one hole, which I did. And you might have to come out here to see. One tree has grown up big and beautiful, and the other one is a little one that grows right out underneath, and the little one has the nicest fruit, otherwise I'd take it out. I probably should still. But each one of these, there will be a cluster of apples there, and a cluster of apples there, and so on. And it gets so many fruit that I have to take some off. The top one, the apple, and I've lost track of which is which, but the top one has a green fruit, like a greeny yellow fruit, like a golden delicious looking fruit, and the other one has a reddish fruit, more like a pink lady in appearance. But the fruit is crisp, it's quite big. I've had no trouble here with codlin moth, which bothers apples in other states, and it's just lovely fruit, and it's a beautiful shade tree and a pretty tree in spring, and it gives us privacy because that's our bedroom there.
And do the fruit fly go for it?
They do, but not as badly because the fruit's harder. But it's like an orange or a grapefruit. You can just cut that bit out and use the rest because it doesn't go rotten like the peaches and nectarines and apricots do. Yeah, these, I don't know if you know, this is a babaco, and it's got 2 fruit, and I have to wait until they're an orange-yellow colour to pick them.
A babaco,
it's a mountain pawpaw.
Oh yes, I have.
And there's little flowers forming, so there's going to be more fruit. And it's also suckered. It's Charlie the chook. Charlie lays amazing eggs. A little boy who had her, he was 5, and his father was the paediatrician at the hospital here for a few years. And Charlie flew over their back fence one day, and they took her back to the owners, and Charlie kept coming back, so they kept Charlie, and Charlie eats out of your hand. When they moved to Melbourne, my husband knew him as a cyclist, and they had a farewell morning tea here, and the little boy who was 5 came up to me, wandered round the garden, and I kept thinking, it's unusual, a 5-year-old looking at everything. He came up to me and he said, will you have my chook when we have to go to Melbourne? So that's how we got Charlie. And Charlie's been here ever since, and I was dreaded if I think something's going to happen to him, because we have to send little letters now and then about how Charlie's going. And they wouldn't believe it when we said she was laying eggs. They were convinced she was a rooster. And there's the duck. The lady that had Kathy's chooks didn't want the duck, so we acquired that, and then someone found the drake on one of the stations and were looking for a home for it, and heard we had a duck, so turned up with the drake.
Do they earn their keep, all these creatures?
We get lovely eggs, yes. Just the last few weeks there weren't many, but we're getting back to getting the eggs again.